Hi, I'm Phil Sanders, and I am the foremost authority on male embracing. You may have seen some of my work in Saving Private Ryan and Brokeback Mountain, or perhaps you've seen my articles in fine publications such as Better Homes and Gardens, In Fisherman, and Fine Woodworking. Today, we want to talk about male hugging. How to do it, what to do, what not to do. This is important stuff if you want to be accepted in the culture of your church.
In this video, I want to help you navigate the treacherous landscape that can be the hug. This can be a terrifying experience if you are unfamiliar with the religious custom that is the holy embrace. In this video, I, Phil Sanders, will give you the tools you need to begin engaging with a culture not your own. For those already immersed in the cultural art of the holy embrace, this video will provide you with the means to indoctrinate people into your hugging culture without driving them away. First, we'll begin with the most basic, the shoulder pat. This exercise will ease you into having tactile contact with someone else. Alright, now let's watch that again. Start by extending your right hand towards the other person. Cup your hand and firmly pat the person you are greeting on the side of their upper shoulder 2 to 3 times. Then continue on your way. Be sure not to linger, holding the person's arm. Hyper hug-happy people have a tendency to linger. This is not male appropriate. The next step is the shake and pat. This is very similar to the shoulder pat, but instead of patting with the right hand, you shake right hands and pat their shoulder with the left. And that's how it's done. The next and final stage of this greeting is the handshake hug. This maneuver moves you into your first embrace. If you're a novice, it's best to start with a simplified variation of this hug, the arm wrestle hug. Start by extending hands, clasping them as if you were to arm wrestle. Embrace using your hands as a space buffer, and put your other arm around your hugging partner. Now that we have begun looking at how to embrace, also watch for how to properly disengage. We will cover more of this later in the video. For intermediate to advanced huggers, start with the handshake. Now here is where it gets a bit tricky. In unison, the pair of you must transition from shaking to arm wrestle position. With your hands in proper position, use your right arms to pull each other close and embrace. Be sure to pat the back, not hold on. You have now just learned the basic, universal man hug. Keep in mind that though this hug is acceptable to guys and greatly alleviates much of the awkwardness, it is not a hug that should be practiced with women. An even less awkward hug for men than the handshake hug is this hug. The side hug is the most universally accepted and least awkward of all embraces for both sexes. Simply come alongside the person you wish to embrace and put your arm around their shoulders. Some additional hugs you should familiarize yourself with is the one-arm hug, and its bigger brother, the over-under. Another name for these two hugs is the full frontal. For many men not used to hyper-hug-happy churches, these hugs feel completely inappropriate. Something to watch out for with these hugs is the left-handed hug. Doing these hugs left-handed is to be avoided as it can activate men's competitive side. This rarely ends well when male embracing. There are also hugs to avoid. First is the bear hug. It usually ends with a mess to clean up. The other reason to avoid it is when you are smaller than the person you are bear hugging. This often results in injury to either the hugger or the huggee upon landing. These stunts performed by professional huggers. Do not try at home. Other hugs to avoid include the mother's embrace, the godfather, also known as the holy kiss. This embrace is only acceptable in certain countries. And finally, the one to be avoided at all cost, the most awkward man hug. At no point is grabbing or pulling one's love handles or mandals ever appropriate. In this next section, we will cover early warning signs, proper placement, and disengaging. When someone is approaching you, watch for the telltale signs that they want to touch you. For a handshake, someone will show you their intent by raising their elbow and extending a hand forward. Also watch for eyebrow movement. Though more subtle, this can also indicate intent to touch, or ITT, or the specific term for this example, intent to shake, ITS. If someone approaches you in this way, don't leave them hanging. It will be considered very rude and unchristian to ignore or refuse any form of ITT. The next form of ITT is much more difficult to spot. It starts with a lean of the shoulders. This lean indicates intent to hug, or ITH, rather than ITS. The differences are subtle, but with time and practice you will read these early warning signs like a pro. After the shoulder tilt will come a move I call the condor. Depending upon what the hugger does, you will know whether to expect a one-arm hug or the over-under. In this case, it's the over-under. Now, let's talk placement. When you first receive the early warning sign, it is important to respond by doing the same actions the hugger is doing. When the hugger extends his right arm, extend your own. When he extends the left, do the same. Now here is the most important part. Make sure both the hugger and the huggee cock their head in the direction of the hug. Doing this will ensure that you fit together like a puzzle. One of the awkward repercussions of failing to cock is the cheek-to-cheek. One mistake that is forbidden no matter what hug you are attempting is maintaining eye contact. At best, it is most awkward, and at worst, it will facilitate the headbutt result. The final element in placement is what to do when the hugging party is of two drastically different heights. The first thing you must do when approaching...
Stop. Stop.
What?
Jeremy, come here.
What is the problem?
What are you doing?
We're making a video on hugging. How to hug, how...
Why?
Because everything that I hear on pushing men away, you read the articles, you see the interviews, they're all talking about hugging and how to hug.
This is not a big issue.
Did you see how awkward that was? I mean, that...
Yeah. This is a surface issue, okay? First of all, where is this happening? Where are these hugs taking place?
In church.
Okay. Since we're talking about this in the context of what drives men away, we'll assume that this is in a worship service.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll say this is a worship service. Well, the percentage of churches that have people hug during their worship service is actually a very small slice of the total number of churches that there are. Most churches, if they have a greeting time during the service, will have you go shake hands with someone else. In a more liturgical church, they'll have you pass the peace. The peace of Christ be with you, and with you also. There's a very small segment of the church that has you hug. So there are other more important reasons that men are not coming to church besides hugs.
So, hugging, guys...
Look, guys know how to hug.
But they don't like to hug.
They hug when it's appropriate. Men hug when they feel a connection with another man. So when churches say, go hug somebody, they're actually forcing relationship on people. And it's not just men who feel this way. Women also feel this way. When you force relationship that's not appropriate on people, they don't respond well.
I can see that.
Guys are not the relational dunces that they're stereotyped to be. They know when it's appropriate to hug, and you'll see it happen. You'll see it on football fields. A guy scores a touchdown. He comes running back to the sidelines. He'll get high fives. He'll get chest bumps. And there'll be guys that they'll grab that hand and whap, whap on the back, that hug that you guys did. They know how to do this. When guys have experienced a challenge together that they've overcome, they feel a connection that says it's appropriate to hug. And you'll see it when they've gone through a particularly difficult stretch of whitewater rafts. You'll see it when they've been on a mission trip and they're shorthanded and they've had to build a cement wall and they've had to carry the cement mixed by hand and carried it and built that wall, and they get done, they go, oh, man, that was great. And they'll give each other a hug because it's appropriate. So hugging, teaching men how to hug, it really isn't that necessary. And it's not really the thing that's driving people away. Now, a much more important issue, for example, is the way we talk in the church, because our talk pervades everything that we do. A hug, maybe once in a while in some churches, but talk is everywhere. And the way we talk doesn't fit most men.
Well, so there are churches that they do hug.
Yeah.
So I'm right.
Maybe for that slice.
Okay.
But the point is, it's not how you hug, it's whether it's appropriate to hug at all. If you're asking people who don't know each other to hug each other, you are forcing relationship on them. And they don't feel right about it. Regardless of whether they're men or women, most people who don't have that relationship with another person don't feel comfortable hugging that other person.
So the issue is not a big issue for most churches. They automatically hug when it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is forcing relationship on people.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because we've decided that what it means to be a Christian is to have relationships only or mostly. That it's all about relationships.
Well, that makes sense. Thanks.
You're welcome. Let's move on to more important things.
Can we hug?
Maybe tomorrow.